Yeah. Good evening, guys, and welcome to interview preparation session on 11th of April 2022, which is being conducted by 360 DG TMC. So, in today's session, we'll just go across a few of the questions regarding the Pythons and what were the questions they might. We'll just revise those all the things in this session. So, as of now, the first question for the day, guys. The first question is: does Python support multiple inheritance? So, if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah, fine. So as we look into this, multiple inheritance, which means that a class can be derived from many other one or more classes, which is called as an parent class. So Python does support multiple inheritance, same as in Java. So as we jump into the next question, what is polymorphism in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, what is this polymorphism in this Python? So yeah, this polymorphism, which actually means the ability to take multiple forms. So for some instances, if the parent class has a method name called ABC, then the child class also can have a method name, same name called as ABC, having of same parameters, own parameters and variables. So yeah, if what is the question, is Python allowing polymorphism? Yes, it does allows polymorphism. Okay, as we jump into the next question, define encapsulation in Python. So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this part, so here, actually what it does is define the encapsulation in Python. So yeah, encapsulation means the binding the code and the data together. It basically binds the whole the data and the code together. And a Python class, a class in a Python is a basic example for this encapsulation. So as we jump into the next question, how do you do a data abstraction in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can pick me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a Now, as we look into this, how do you do this data abstraction in Python? This data abstraction is providing only the required details, and it hides the implementation from the web. It just shows us the required details which are being required to us, and it just hides the implementation part through the web. So it can also be achieved in Python by using interfaces, abstract classes, so each and everything. So as we jump into the next question, how to create an empty class in Python? How to create an empty class? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, how to create an empty class in a Python. An empty class is a class which doesn't have any code and defines within it with inside a block itself. So it can be created using a pass keyword. However, you can create objects of this class outside the class itself. So in Python, this pass command does nothing. When it executes, it's a null statement. So in the data, while working on a data, we do get some null values inside the data, right? So the null value, which means we do have some null values, which we do have some empty class inside them. So these were all the comments, these were all the things which we will go across in Python. So we have to get an idea on it. We have to know an idea on it. So as we jump into the next question, what does an object does? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, what does this object function does in Python? So yeah, if we look into this, it returns a featureless objects that is a base for all classes, and also it does not take any parameter. It doesn't take any parameter. It just gives out the objects for each and every base classes. So as we jump into the next question, what is map function in Python? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, what does a map function? What is a map function in Python? So the map function, it basically executes the functions which are given in the first argument on all the elements of the as respect to their iterables given as a second argument. So the function takes in more than one argument, then many iterables are given. So yes, this is how a map function is. So as we jump into the next question, is Python NumPy better than list? So yeah, I think you might have an idea on what is an NumPy is and what is a list is, and what is a declaration for a list. So is NumPy, it's a library which we use in Python. So it is that better than list? So if anyone has an idea on it, they can please type in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, yes, we use Python NumPy as an array instead of a list because there were few reasons behind it. Because of the its less memory, it is very fast and it's convenient to use it. So that's the only reason we have been using NumPy as compared to list. Okay, as we jump into the next question, how do you make a 3D plots visualizations using Scipy or NumPy? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, how do use this 3D plots, visualization, and matplot and SumPy. So, like 2D plots and 3D graphics, it's beyond the scope of some NumPy and SciPy. But just as in the 2D case, packages exist. So that integrates with the NumPy function, matplotlib, and provides a basic 3D plot in a mplot 3D subpackage. So this is a subpackage which is available. Whereas Mayavi, it basically provides a wide range of high quality 3D visualization feature, which basically utilizes the powerful VTK engine. So as we jump into the next questions, so how do you understand by reindexing in pandas? What do you understand by it? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. So yeah, as we look into this, what do you understand by using this reindexing in pandas? So reindexing is a process of conforming a data frame to a new index with optional filling logic. So if the values are missing in the previous index, then null values is obviously placed in that location. So if a new object is returned unless a new index is produced that is equivalent to current one, so the copy value is set to false. So this is also used to for changing the index in rows as well as in formats of columns as in the data frame. So as we jump into the next question, define GIL. What is the full form of it and what do we use it for? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now as we look into this, GIL, it basically stands for Global Interpreter Law. So this is a mutex used for limiting access for Python objects and in effective thread synchronization by avoiding deadlocks. And this GIL, it basically helps in achieving multitasking and not parallel computing. It basically used for multitasking. So as we jump into the next question, differentiate between deep and shallow copies. So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Now as we look into this differentiation between this deep and shallow copies, this shallow copies does not take off creating new objects, storing references of original elements. This does not undergo some recursion to create the copies of nested objects. It just copies the reference details of nested objects. So deep copies creates an independent and new copy of an object, and even copies all the nested objects of the original element recursively. So this is the only difference in between the shallow copies as well as deep copies. So as we jump into the next question, so this is an MCQ question. So here I've been given a question and with some options. So which of the following statement creates a dictionary? These were the four options which have been given to you. So pick up the right option from these four options, and please try to ping me in the chat box, and we'll try to discuss within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, the right option for this is B, C, and D. It might be any of the format. Okay. So dictionaries are created by specifying keys and values, as you all know. So as we jump into the next question, which one of this is used for floor division? In these below symbols, which of them were being used for floor division? And these were the four options which have been given to you. So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. As we look into this, the right option for this is B. Yes, we use floor division in such a way. So yeah, for example, I'm just giving you an example. Suppose if you use a single division method, we might get an output in such a way like 2.5. 2.5 might be the output if we use a single slash. So here, if we use a floor division like double slash, it takes into consideration only the value, only the integer values, and will get only answer as 2. Will not get 2.5. Okay. So as we jump into the next part, what is the maximum possible length of an identifier? What is the possible length of it? And the options are 31, 63, 79, and none of those. So if anyone have an idea, they can please ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. As we look into this, as we look into this, and the option is none. Identifiers can't be of any length in the above mentioned things. Okay. So as we jump into the next question, why are local variable names beginning with an underscore discouraged? So, and the options are they are used to indicate a private variable of a class. They confuse the interpreter. They can use to indicate global variables, or they just slow down execution. So, if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, and the option is A. They are used to indicate a private variable of a class. So, as Python has no concept of private variables, so some of the symbols like underscores are used to indicate variables. Like these were only special characters which were going to use in this Python, only the underscore. So that's the most that must not be an access for outside the class. So, what are Python libraries? Name any few of them. If anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this part, what are Python libraries?
So we do have some libraries in Python like Numpy, Pandas, Matplotlib, sklearn. So each and every these were the few libraries which I have been personally kept over here. There are a number of libraries to be gone through. So as we jump into the next question, what is a split used for? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, the split method is used to separate a given string in a Python. It basically separates a given string. That's it. So, what is type conversion in Python? So, if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. That's the only thing to be done over here. Like what are the conversions? How to convert those things? Yeah. Now, as we look into this part, type converters. If you use this int, it basically converts data type into integer type. Float, if you use this float, it basically converts into float type. So these were some of the conversions which have been written over here. Octal, it converts into octal. Tuple, representation, it basically converts into that part. Set, list, dictionary, string. So these were all the things which we have been going for. So as we jump into the next question, what is pickling and unpickling? So if anyone knows the answer, can ping me in the chat box, and we'll discuss the answer within a minute. Yeah. Now, as we look into this, what is a pickling and unpickling? Yeah. Pickle modules, it basically accepts the Python objects and converts it into a string representation and dumps into a file by using a dump function. So this process is called pickling. Well, the process of retrieving the original Python object from the store strings, it basically represents of unpickling. So yeah, that's it for the day, guys. Hope you have gone through some questions which were useful in your filtering process or some other HR rounds or anything. So try to do a practice from your side. So that's it for the day, guys. So we'll meet tomorrow. Bye.